It's alive! It's alive!
Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends. So, what's going on, guys? I'm about to go to the freaking dentist. It's one of those moves I've been putting it off too long, but I ran home really quickly first. I wanted to get this video out for you guys. A quick video after the behemoth of an hour-plus long video yesterday. A lot of good feedback on that one. We review a lot of the kind of lesser-known rare champions, Darth Microtransaction and I. So check that video out in case you missed it. But today we're going to talk about 5 new champions being added to the game. A couple of them really new S-tier options at both Epic and Legendary rarity. So let's go ahead and get into it. A few like quality of life updates as well. This is the new Fragment Summon champion, guys. Versulf the Grim, he is a Legendary Force HP-based champion from Knights Revenant faction. A Fragment Summon, as we discussed, this is a champion we've already talked about here on the channel, but in short, I think that a lot of people are saying just like one of the worst champions, don't go for him. I think that's a little bit drastic. In my opinion, I think it is a... He's an average legendary champion. The problem with him is that Visix the Unbowed, in my opinion, on a vacuum is a better champion than he is, and that's a free champion. But if you need a good support champion for Knights Revenant faction, I think that he's a decent option. I think he's worth going for in that regard. If you're burnt out from the game, if you're burnt out from the last fusion, totally, and the Clan vs. Clan tournament as well, totally don't blame you guys for skipping on this one. Definitely a skippable, but not trash, in my opinion, champion. Has a provoke on the A1, also a shield, has an AoE with an extra hit on enemies under stun, freeze, fear, true fear, provoke, kind of the opportunist mastery built in there. Well, not built in, just not extra damage, but an extra hit. Each hit also places a leech debuff. This is on a 3-turn cooldown with 100% land rate when booked on the leech. The books aren't too bad on this champion. That's the good news here. Silver lining. 2 cooldown books on the A3, which is increased defense and ally protect. Again, this is on a 3-turn cooldown there. So again, not a bad support option for faction wars, you know, or if you're just bored and you want to go for it anyway, go for it. But if you want to skip, this is a skippable Fragment Summon champion, in my opinion. I will go after him though, because I don't mind Fragment Summons personally. All right, so Cleo, not Cleopatra, but Cleopatrix. This is a Spirit Affinity Skinwalker attack-based champion. Looks like another one of those, I don't know, hawk, lizard, mouse, skinwalker. Not lizard. I don't know why I said that. Anyway, on the A1, this is Death Dive, a bird. It's an armored bird champion. Pretty cool. Has a weaken chance. This is a Hex champion. We called it, guys. We made a whole video talking about Rule the Huntmaster, who I called Raul. Rule the Huntmaster, we made a whole video talking about how I had a big inclination, not going too far out of limb here, that they're going to add a bunch more Hex champions in the game, and with every Hex champion that's added, Rule gets more valuable. So that's why I encourage you guys to go for Rule, and this is, another Hex champion added to the game. Death Dive on the A1 has a 50% chance when booked of placing a big version of Weaken for 2 turns. The chance increases to 50, make it 70 when booked if the target is under the Hex debuff. Also has a perfect Veil buff on this champion for 1 turn if the attack kills enemies under Hex debuff. We don't know the multipliers, but just a hunch that this champion has solid multipliers. Again, we don't know that, but I have a hunch. On the A2, Feather Barrage. Increased crit rate on the champion for 2 turns, then attacks all enemies. Has a 100% chance of placing block active skills for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown on targets under Hex. Really good ability, again, provided that we do have that Hex on the team, or that we can set up with the Hex on the A3 coming up in a second here. So again, we don't know the multipliers here, remains to be seen, but pretty solid. We also don't know the speed. I always want to know the speed on champions with block active skills, because that plays into, hey, is this an arena champion? Is this a champion that we can use as kind of an arena CC champion, or just an all-out nuker on a Hex team? Probably the latter, but we'll see. So on the A3, increased accuracy buff on this champion for 2 turns, then attacks all enemies. Another AoE attack, guys. Has a 100% chance when booked of placing a Hex. This is on a 4-turn cooldown. Has a 100% chance of placing a fear debuff for 1 turn instead on enemies already under that Hex debuff. I like that. Adds extra versatility if you already have a Rule kind of coming in there and setting this attacker up. Countermand, the passive. Counterattacks with the default skill every time this champion loses 30% HP or more in a single turn. Always counterattacks when attacked if 2 or more allies are dead. And again, that counterattack is going to place a perfect veil on this champion, provided they kill the target. Otherwise, at least we're getting a weaken. And again, we'll see the multipliers on that A1, but it definitely is in consideration in determining the overall value or power of this champion because of that A1 and the counterattack. All right, so this is the big game changer. My God, welcome another S tier champion to the game. It is Tuwanarak. Tuwanarak is a Void Legendary Support Barbarian, as if we needed another OP Void Legendary Support Barbarian, right? After Ursaga. Anyway, attacks 1 enemy, has a 50% chance of placing a decreased speed debuff for 2 turns. Place a continuous heal buff on the champion for 1 turn. Also place a continuous heal buff for 1 turn on the ally with lowest HP. This is just the A1, guys. This kit is nasty. A2 attacks 1 enemy, has a 100% chance when booked on a 3-turn cooldown of placing a decreased attack debuff and a block buffs debuff for 2 turns. Also applies a debuff spread, taking 2 random debuffs from the target and placing them on all enemies. What? So we get a decreased attack and a block buffs, and, you know, on all enemies after the attack or with the attack. Also has a debuff spread, so if they're already under decreased defense, you know, that could carry over as well. I like this ability. It's a very interesting debuff that we haven't seen before, with a debuff spread applied there with 2 debuffs added. Very cool. On the A3, we have an increased defense and an increased speed on a 3-turn cooldown. But here's what it's all about, man. You guys know I love Doompriest. Doompriest is the best, or certainly in the conversation, and I'm not being hyperbolic here, Doom Tower champion in the game, right? I use Doompriest more than I do any other champion in Doom Tower against almost all the bosses. And look at this passive, guys. Look at it. Removes 1 random debuff from all allies at the start of each turn. Removes 2 random debuffs instead from allies under continuous heal buffs. This is a passive. Wow. Wow, we have another Doompriest, only better, guys. No heal on the A1, but we have the continuous heal, or on the passive, excuse me, but we have the continuous heal on the A1, and we have increased defense and increased speed, and the decreased attack, the block buffs, the debuff spread. Oh my word, this champion is S tier in the game. Increased ally accuracy in all battles by 70. Not a bad aura as well. All right, so we have 2 epics to go, guys. And one of them, in my opinion, again, they're both really good. Let's just go through their kits. Attacks 1 enemy, 20% chance, make it a 40 when booked to placing a provoke for 1 turn. Places a 50% decreased attack debuff for 1 turn if the target is under fear or true fear. On the A2, Necrosis. Attacks all enemies, 100% chance of placing a 100% heal reduction when booked on a 3-turn. Places a shield on the A3. Coffin Bulwark. Places a shield buff on all allies for 2 turns, equal to 30% of their max HP. Also places the weak version of Strengthen on all allies for 2 turns. This is a really good ability, guys. Shield is awesome, you know, for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. But we also have that Strengthen, albeit the weak version. 15% is 15% less damage mitigated on all champions. It's a really good buff still, right? And then we have Immune to Fear and True Fear on the passive. Whenever an ally's HP drops below 50% from an enemy attack, has a 50% chance of placing a Fear debuff on the attacker for 1 turn. Whenever an ally dies, has a 75% chance of placing a True Fear debuff on all enemies. Whoa. We have defense and faction crypts. This is a Knight Revenant champion as well, defense based. I think this champion is going to help a lot of people out in Knights Revenant faction wars crypt and probably other areas of the game as well. It's not an insanely OP kit, but I really love that passive. I love that we have the provoke and the decrease attack, provided the fear or true fear are landed on the A1. And again, for heal reduction, if you need it, he's got it, right? So again, not a game changer as much as this next one, Venomage, oh my word, but still a solid champion, right? Venomage, oh my, this is another really good one here, guys. Epic magic support, Lizard Man. On the A1, toxicity, reminding me of System of a Down. Good old days, huh? Good old days. Attack 1 enemy 2 times. Decrease the target's max HP by 75% of the damage inflicted if they're under heal reduction debuff. I hate the qualifier, but still good, you know, for Scarab King. Each hit also has, look at all this poison synergy in this kit, dude. It's insane. Each hit also has a 35% chance, make it a 50 when booked, of instantly activating up to 2 poison debuffs on the target. Ooh, cool on the A1, right? Now, speaking of poison, Neurotoxin. on the A2, attacks one enemy, has a 100% chance of placing the big version of decreased defense for 2 turns. Also has a 100% chance of placing the big version of decreased attack debuff for 2 turns if the target is under a poison debuff on a 3-turn cooldown. Think clan boss here. Decrease, this is your debuffer. Decrease attack, decrease defense all the time, because we're always going to have those poisons with the poison activation on the A1. A3, it keeps getting better. An AoE attack on a 3-turn cooldown has a heal reduction debuff and then places a 75% chance, make it 100, of placing 2 big versions of poison for 2 turns. Okay. And then the passive. Enemies under heal reduction debuffs inflict 15% less damage. Okay, now that gives us a reason to have that heal reduction, maybe that, Skull Crusher or whatever, or him, right, on the clan boss team, right? Because we're mitigating 15% of damage. I don't need to tell you guys, that's really great. That's like a built-in strengthen, weak version of strengthen all the time, right? Provided, again, they're under heal reduction. But I love the poison activation. We don't actually place, we do place, my bad, the heal reduction. So we're placing heal reduction. We have the heal reduction damage mitigation. We have 2 poisons on the A3, and we have the instant activation of poisons on the A1. That's great because you can build them into kind of a poison team. And if you don't have to worry so much about having, 10 debuffs on the boss, because we're instantly activating 2 every time we go in there with the A1. I love the synergy between him and a counterattack champion, specifically Skull Crusher, because of the heal reduction. Ally Protect, obviously, to help keep him alive, but the counterattack keeps activating those poisons. I think it's a really cool champion added to the game, guys. What about you? Miscellaneous, we have Summon Gomlock Skyhide from Fragments will be moved to part 7, the progress missions. Okay, cool. Void Shards will receive a summon time 10 option in the sub. You can open them times 10. Jeez, Ash. Tapping the sell button in artifact storage will no longer add the selected artifact or accessory to the list of items you wish to sell. This change should help players avoid selling artifacts by accident. And even players who are not part of the clan will be able to view information about the clan boss difficulties and rewards. Good quality of life updates as well, guys. We don't want to make the video any longer than it needs to be. Are you as high as me, especially on this champion? Do you think potentially the best? She's really good. Really good. Let me know in the comments below, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing day. Off to the dentist. As always, take care, guys.